My name is Minister John Ruland III, and I live in Columbus, Indiana, and I know I start out every video like this, but at least you know who I am and where I live. And if you want to email at me at any time, it's John Ruland, it's JOHNRULAND @gmail.com. That's how long I've had the email address. Okay, the topic today is our culture within us. Now, I don't know if you've seen the video, but I did one about tribal attributes. Well, now, this is the culture within your tribal attributes. So, the culture is what's really determines who we become, not who we are. Who we are is our tribal attribute. Who we become is our culture that we are raised in. Now, that was really kind of interesting because you can take a family in an out-of-the-way country with their newborn and take them anywhere else in the world with a different type of food, a totally different culture, and even the language could be different. And as the children get older, they will, what I call, assimilate into society. They will speak the language. They will eat the food that is there. Even though tribal attributes will be different, they're not born with culture. Culture is where we live. So that means that no matter where we live, we assimilate into the culture we was born in. So, and a big thing was when other people from other countries moved here and stayed, and they raised their children here in our schools, and they spoke a different language, the parents, but as the children went to school here, they learned the native language. So that means that, the language is not built in because every culture is different. So wherever you live, you will learn the language and everything else that goes along with it. Now, this is the sermon. At the end of the 20th century, we now understand that human cultural behavior to learning, conditioning into infants beginning at birth, and always subject to modification. No human is born with a built-in culture or language. Our temperaments, dispositions, and personalities, regardless of genetic principalities, are developed within sets of meaning of values that we call culture. Studies of infant and early childhood learning and behavior attest to the reality of our cultures in forming who we are. It was propensities, generic propensities. It is a basic tenet of anthropological knowledge that all normal human beings have that capacity to learn any cultural behavior. the American experience with immigrants from hundreds of different languages and culture and backgrounds who have required some version of American culture, traits, and behavior in the clearest evidence of this fact. Moreover, people of physical variations have learned different cultural behaviors and continue to do so as modern transportation moves millions of immigrants and or tribal members around the world. How people have been accepted and treated within the context of a given society or culture has a direct impact on how they perform in that society. The word tribal within the worldview was, okay? And they used the word racial. Now, the word was invented to assign some groups to perpetual low status while others were permitted access to privilege, power, and wealth. The tragedy in the United States has been that the policies and practices stemming from this worldview succeeded all too well in constructing unequal populations among Europeans, Native Americans, and all the other tribal members of all the nations. You notice the tribal members. We're not different races. We're just from different tribes. But they try to say we are different races because of the policies that they want to implement because they think they're better than everybody else. Given what we know about the capacity of normal human to achieve and function within any culture, we conclude that present-day inequalities between so-called racial groups are not consequences of their biological inheritance, but products of historical and contemporary social, economic, education, political circumstances within each culture. Now that's really kind of interesting when you talk about different tribal attributes within any culture. That means they're trying to separate different tribes to say that one is better than the other, because one might have money and one might be poor. So basically, the word racial should not even be used. It should be your tribal attributes, because that's what it really is. Your tribal attributes within your culture. So that was really interesting when all of a sudden they set this all up through the church. And for my understanding now, the churches pretty soon will be obsolete. So you can go from there.